Hello everybody, this is Mr. Commute, commuting home right now, and today I wanted to expose you to more positive political talk radio than you might be used to. This is a conservative commentator. His name is Eli Lake. I'm sorry, so I'm going to introduce you to the program called The Remnant by Jonah Goldberg, and he's going to have a guest on named Eli Lake to talk about the Iranian Revolution. Both men are conservative men, so they're Republicans, but neither of them is a Trump supporter, so that gives you a little bit about them. What I like about their style is that they're very fact-based, and they place the facts in context. They don't disparage an idea just because the Democrats are in support of it. They don't talk down about, they're very respectful. They're very conservative. They're big against government overreach and things like that. But I think one of them describes himself as a neither Trumper, and the other one as a never Trumper. But they really put the current horrible protests in Iran, and obviously the horrible part is the government cracking down and killing the Iranian people who they're supposed to protect. So I'm just going to play a little bit of that, and I might pause it to add my own thoughts and actually to talk about why I recommend this program over others. So here is The Remnant talking about the Iranian protests.
Get to the state of play with that guy in a second, but why don't you just give me your sort of 30,000 foot view about, as Doctor Strange said in the Avengers, are we in the end game now? Give me your broad take on how we got here and where things stand.
I think that
lots
Iran
of pop culture references.
A legitimation crisis now for more than 20 years. Meaning, I don't think that most Iranian people would like to live under this particular regime or believe in the ideology that animates it, or of the Islamic Revolution. And one of the signs that we knew even before these protests is that they weren't able to actually enforce the hijab rules. So that is a victory for the last round of uprising, which was the Women Life Freedom Movement in 2022 and 2023. But you have,
in half a mile, continue straight to stay on I-15 South.
The regime that is obviously now willing to kill tens of thousands of its own people in order to stay in power. So there is what sometimes is called elite cohesion. That's how it looks from the outside. I'm skeptical. I do think there's a reason why they didn't kill in that level.
Continue straight to stay on I-15 South.
Eventually, your militia commander, they're known as the Basij, will have to come home to dinner, and it's pretty likely that the daughter and the wife and the brother and the uncle are going to all say, "What are you doing?" That's something that we can't see, but I assess that that's probably going on. There was a revealing phone call to one of these exile podcasts through.
Just to give you some background, Iran is a large country in the Middle East. It's Persian, it's not Arabic, and they're ruled by a very strict, a theocracy. They have religious leaders, are the dictators of the country. They enforce strict Islamic rule along the population. Historically, Iran has been more of a pro-Western, well-educated, secular country, but under the rule of the Ayatollahs, it's become very strict, very repressive, trying to force women to wear the traditional headdresses that they're talking about, not supporting quality education for many of the women in Islamic society. and not accepting a plurality of perspectives.
In 2 miles, use the right lane to take exit 58 for Temecula Parkway.
Many Persians, Iranians have come to the United States and thrived here. Like I said, they have good educational institutions there, so they could come here, often speaking English, often with degrees, and really thrive in our society. And if it wasn't for this theocracy, you know, they would be one of the prosperous secular nations like Abu Dhabi in the Middle East that is aligned with the West and respects human rights and the rights of women and all the things that we're often concerned about with their neighbors. All right, so I'll play a little bit more, and then I'm gonna kind of skip to the end where they talk kind of about, they have more Trump related commentary.
To where a woman who I think credibly, I mean, we can't confirm it, described herself as the daughter of a fairly high up Revolutionary Guard Corps commander, was asking for information. How can I get in touch with The Hague? My father is a criminal. I can tell you what happened when we were arrested. I was able to get free because of my father, but 2 of my friends were raped and tortured, and it was really emotional. Even though it's in Farsi, you see the subtitles and you're just like, this is unbelievable. I believe that that's probably going on in a number of households, and that's something that.
So the government, the
In half a
theocracy,
mile, use the right lane to take exit 58 for Temecula Parkway.
the religious government in Iran has held on for, you know, something like 70 years now. No, that's not even right. I think they came in the 70s or the 60s. So 60 years now. But he thinks that they're weakening, that the fact that they've increased violence against their civilians
Use the right lane to take exit 58.
means that some of the generals that are under the government might decide we no longer support the government, and there could be a coup. Trump has actually threatened to take out a lot of the
In a
leadership
quarter
with
mile,
missile
slide right
attacks,
onto the Temecula Parkway ramp.
like he did with the Maduro regime in Venezuela. So very risky. Obviously, we know Afghanistan, things don't always turn out the way we expect when we remove a government that we don't like. Sometimes things get worse. But Iran is a country that supports global terrorism. They're the biggest state funder of
Slight
terrorism.
right onto the Temecula Parkway ramp. Then
So-
at the next light, you'll take a slight right.
And like I said, it's a country that has a lot going for it, or it did have a lot going for it. And so it's hard
At the
to,
light, take a slight right onto California 79 South, Temecula Parkway.
it's easier to think that they might have a brighter future than Afghanistan, which has always kind of had a lot of sectarian violence. So that's a little bit about them. I'm going to go ahead and skip now to where they're talking about Trump more.
Trump make claims to restoring the monarchy. He sounds a little different now in these heady times, and also because he has a new set of advisors in recent years. So I think it's a kind of combination of those things. His supporters will say he's the only viable person to lead the opposition, and I can get partly the way there, except.
All right, sorry. So he's talking more about the Persian opposition, about different people that may raise up and help overthrow. So there's some political leaders of the opposition that he thinks may not have the strength. Obviously, it'll be determined in the end by the military whether or not the religious leaders stay in power, and hopefully there's a good transition to a government that more reflects the values of the people of Iran. So I'm going to skip further ahead.
You also have to worry about the Democrats, right? Because if the Democrats come in, we're just going to, I think, compound the cycle. But we're largely in agreement. My only thing was to say, I just think we have a capability in our political culture to just have these kind of what is it? We're making movie references, Men in Black, where you put on the thing and it erases your memory. And I can't believe I ever said that. And
I think that's right. I mean, I think that was my problem with Ross Douthat's piece about the end of conservatism. Was
I really enjoyed reading his piece and your piece. I thought it was I love that. Could we do more of that back and forth where really smart people seriously argue but like with ideas and not just ad hominem.
In 1,000 feet, use the right 2 lanes to turn right onto Pechinga Parkway.
Versus
So here they're asking for a political dialogue, the way that Republicans and Democrats and conservatives and liberals, the way that they communicate each other, that it's based on fact, that it's not so disrespectful, that
At the light, turn right onto Pechinga Parkway.
that we don't just try to play gotcha politics, but we try to understand really what's going to work out best for people.
Chomsky after 9/11. But can we just take a moment to talk about Chomsky and Epstein? I don't know if you care.
Noam Chomsky is a scholar about, he's actually a linguist, and he talks about the origins of language within human cognition, but he's become a liberal debater. So he talks a lot about politics these days, and so they're talking about a debate that Noam Chomsky had with a Republican, where they think that the Republican got the better of him, but they liked the fact-based discourse.
Sure.
I mean,
Go ahead.
it just, you and I probably, we have the receipts of how awful Noam Chomsky has been over the years. And it is delicious to watch all of these lefties I see on social media twisting or like saying, I am through with them. How can you be friends with them? And it's like, it's just, this is what I voted for. Okay. Even though I don't think they should have been released, I get all that. Like, I'm with you. It's bad precedent.
Okay, we need to take a quick break, but we'll be back soon. Do you love the Dispatch's journalism, but best player? Take the Dispatch on the go. Members, because that's the whole point of your podcast, a huge point of my podcast, and all that kind of stuff. This is the problem with the Trump administration when you were going through that litany of things, calling them domestic terrorists, right? It's this administration, as you put it, which I invoked a bunch of times. You did a fantastic podcast episode on how Trump's a right, and I've since bought and read the essay that.
So I would say not always that respectful. They're plain talkers too, but at least it's fact-based, and at least they don't they provide context to the facts. They're really trying to hone in on the truth and not just try to win by personal attacks and by denying facts or selectively using facts.
On BS essay, this administration does not care, and its biggest defenders does not care about telling the truth or about arguing in good faith about anything. And that is the thing. Like, I'm kind of like, I'll be self-indulgent. I'll be a prima donna. That's the one thing I cannot forgive. I can forgive, in an intellectual sense, all sorts of terrible ideological positions, from Bolshevism to racism to all sorts of things. Like, I'm willing to engage with people if they're making good faith arguments about things. But when they just lie, or not even lie, as you know, at least lies acknowledge what the truth is. When they just make stuff up pretextually, that means I think that violates the core idea of, what do you want to call it, democratic or small r Republican or Western Enlightenment-based values, whatever system of beliefs that we believe in. That is a rejection of them at a really metaphysical level. And so
So that characterization of Trump is probably hard for some people to hear, right? They see them as the mighty warrior in the Republican cause, although not the conventional Republican cause, just the kind of positions that he's picked and chosen. But I think it's healthy and good for people to hear things that are hard to hear now and then. It's good for you mentally. And it's good to challenge ideas and decide what you really believe, understand why you believe it, and make change and grow where it's necessary.
Wanted to come back to that is the Epstein file stuff. You know, Steve Bannon has something like 15 hours of interviews with Epstein that he did as part of an effort to rehabilitate Epstein. He was very close with Epstein. He wanted to use Epstein's stuff to like blackmail other people and all these kinds of things. And it makes it impossible for me to take any of the sort of MAGA sphere influencers seriously when they, you know, I don't know, Jack.
At the next light, use the left 2 lanes to turn left.
Sort of use the Epstein files to go after the Jews or go after elites or whatever, but they're utterly silent about like people like Steve Bannon, who is their patron and all of that. It just shows how it's just weaponizing things rather than arguing in good faith about anything. And I think that
So Steve Bannon, I believe he is something like Trump's chief of staff. He's somebody
At
that
the light, turn left onto Wolf Valley Road.
has a lot of influence with Donald Trump's positions that he takes. So he's one of the people that provides the support and the background for the arguments that Trump tries to make, or the points he tries to make. So he's a close Trump ally. And he provides the rationale for a lot of the policies that Trump puts forward. Very controversial figure.
it's the thing that I think of all the takeaways from the Epstein stuff, that's one of the most important ones for me is that.
So Jeffrey Epstein is a person who kind of ran a super upscale prostitution ring involving child prostitution that many elites, political elites, billionaires, famous people would use his prostitutes, young prostitutes, child prostitutes, and has a lot of political ramifications. Trump was clearly a close friend and associate of Jeffrey Epstein, and so he has been under a lot of pressure
turn right.
to release the Epstein files that point to some of the people that had used these prostitutes, and so Trump really resisted that, and there's some compromising information. Not totally clear that he had sex with these prostitutes, but you might say it seems that way. There's a note in a birthday book that they put together for Epstein from Donald Trump, and it includes the profile. It includes a sketch of a nude woman, and Trump talks about wonderful secrets, and he signs his name, and the name looks like the anyways, it looks like part of the woman's figure. So Trump has been taking both sides, tried to use Epstein to hurt Democrats. As a campaigner, he said he would quickly release all the Epstein files, and he's only done that under pressure. Now he's released a lot of information. There's questions about the redactions and about how he picked what information to release and what not to release. Very complex here, but they're not really talking about the ins and outs of that, but rather just the Trump position on truth.
Even the people who are most adamant about the importance of the Epstein files, they just see it as like this giant flea market bin of bric-a-brac, and they get to rummage through it for the weapons they want rather than actually care about the actual issues involved.
So you're true. The only caveat I would say is that
So obviously, there are policy positions that politicians should make from facts like this, right? They should try to do things to protect people. They should enable litigation to make this harder. They should support and fund law enforcement activities to protect these women, and they should hold men accountable for their actions, especially involving underage women. But for the Trumpers, it's more about, or it's been about, protecting their people and punishing the other people. And equally, the Democrats have been involved with that kind of stuff too. And Mr. Goldberg is just advocating for a higher dialogue based on facts and truth, and not just warfare between, kind of like tribal warfare between Democrats and Republicans, where the only goal is to win.
I agree with you that all the BSing is enough already, and it's at a level that, I would say every president and politician BSs to a certain degree, but the level is too much, and the brazenness is too much. And
even the Department of Agriculture has standards for fecal parts per billion in our grain supply, right? I understand that politics is going to have a certain amount of BS in it, but it can't be about, you can't declare that you're bombing, blowing up, possibly violating the laws of war to fight the drug war, claiming it's to stop fentanyl, and then the second you get the opportunity, you decapitate the Venezuelan regime and declare, no, this is actually all about oil. Like, you can't operate that way.
That's super dangerous. I just would say.
Yeah, so Trump was saying that he was declaring war on the drug organizations by attacking these speedboats, and specifically stating that there was a lot of ties with the Venezuelan government. That's kind of in question, and specifically, a lot of the drug boats don't seem to have come from Venezuela, but from places that are more producers of the drugs, like Colombia. And people have tried to tie this to the opioid epidemic, but the drugs don't come from places that process or produce opiates. These boats are coming from South America, where they grow cocaine and they process cocaine, and opiates come from Asia mostly, or some other places. But when they enter the country illegally, it's either from the bottom of a boat in Asia, or it may enter Mexico and come up through land. But these blowing up these drug boats as a military action isn't a great idea, right? We should treat it like we're not at war with another nation. These are drug dealers. We don't blow them up. We arrest them. That's the way it's always been handled, right? We arrest them, we have a fact-based trial, and we hold them accountable. So I'll just conclude here that the Remnant has my endorsement. Not everything they say, but I think it's a great tool for people to understand conservatism and to elevate the dialogue about politics. Thank you, Mr. Commuter, saying goodbye.